Well, as the province of Alberta moves to phase in reopenings for businesses, it did say that Calgary would be one of two cities that would be delayed in that reopening. That is a setback for the businesses, of course, of that city. Its Mayor Naheed Nenshi is with us now. Thank you for being with us, Mayor. Appreciate it. Let's just start with, I'm sure there's a bit of dialogue on this and that you probably knew before the businesses knew, but just the blow to businesses that were hopeful, that were trying to be ready, and then find that they actually can't open yet. How serious was that?
Yeah, so to be clear, this was a provincial public health decision. I believe they made it a bit late. They wanted to use it. This is not a time to be barking at governments. They're trying to do the right thing. But they were trying to use the latest and greatest data. Had I been in their shoes, I probably would have made the decision based on data a couple of days earlier. And just to be clear, many parts of the business community did in fact see an easing of restrictions. So all retail stores are now able to open. Daycares and childcare providers are able to be open. The two big ones that were delayed were restaurants, bars and pubs, and hair salons. And what's really challenging is for the restaurants in particular. There's not actually very many of them that were not already open for delivery and takeout, but who wanted to open their dine-in services. And they ordered a lot of food, and the food is perishable. So the very simple thing that I'm reaching out to people in Calgary to do this weekend, we've had to make a lot of sacrifices during COVID. Stay home, watch TV. Now my next sacrifice is eat a lot this weekend if you have the opportunity to do so. Order a lot of takeout and delivery so that we can get rid of some of this food and it doesn't go to waste. But ultimately, obviously, for those businesses that were hoping to open, that had really put a lot into it, that had rehired staff, that had cleaned their premises, this really is a blow to have to wait another 10 days.
What's the thinking on the part of the city about what you can do to help restore confidence, which it feels as though that's going to be a big piece of the puzzle here, is even once businesses are open, is signaling to consumers, to customers, that it's okay to go?
Well, the number one thing to restore confidence is to bring our numbers down. And to ensure, because the issue here is that the healthcare system has plenty of capacity and citizens did a really good job. It's not anything government did, it's everything citizens did to engage in physical distancing to slow down the spread of the virus. But ultimately, here in Calgary, we hadn't gone quite down enough, according to public health, on our community transmission. So what I'm really reaching out to citizens to do is say, look, if we want to ease the restrictions, if we want to open that faucet a little bit, what we need to do is double down and make sure we're being even more serious on our physical distancing work, make sure that we're being even really much more serious on making sure that our mouths and noses are covered whenever we go out, whether it's with a proper mask or even a bandana. And I think that will actually help bring confidence to a lot of other folks. I know that at one of the shopping malls, one of the big malls that opened yesterday, there were very few customers, but the customers that were there were actually quite happy to see the real efforts that the mall had gone through to make sure people were engaging in physical distancing. So that's really the ticket here. It's not that COVID is gone. There's still no treatment. There's still no cure. There's still no vaccine. The people who get it, who end up in the ICU, well, most of them die. And so we still want to make sure that we don't get it and that we're not spreading it. But we can do that in a way that is thoughtful while helping business to reopen as well.
I mean, you're getting at the piece of this over which people have the least control and the most concern, and that is the testing. We all understand that if and when a vaccine appears, if it's effective, we eradicate this thing after some period of time. But between now and then, testing, understanding how many people have it, understanding immunity levels, all of these things, that's such a black box still. How frustrated are you that we're just not seeing more testing? I mean, we're seeing other jurisdictions, just testing up the wazoo.
In Alberta, I'm not frustrated at all. We have amongst the highest per capita testing rates in the world. And in fact, I just received a note from senior leadership at the province today saying, can you encourage more people to go out and get tested? Because we're not testing to our full capacity right now. And in Calgary, in fact, we are allowing asymptomatic people to be tested. So folks who work in grocery stores, who have been exposed to the public a lot, now have the ability to get that test. So in fact, our problem is not a lack of testing, it's making sure we get enough people tested. And believe it or not, that's one of the things I'm encouraging people to do on the long weekend. If you've been in contact with a lot of other folks, this is a good opportunity to contact HealthLink at 811 here in Alberta. and book your test.
So, I mean, I guess when you encourage people to get tested, you don't mean people from Ontario. We can't come to Alberta and get tested as much as we'd like to.
We would love to have you, and our travel industry is, gone, but not right now.
Yes.
Soon you can come.
No, that's right. We'll be back in Banff as soon as we can. Meanwhile, though, Mayor, how are you getting it right? What can other provinces learn from what Alberta is up to?
We were lucky in a couple of ways. Number one is that we had some brilliant folks who work for Alberta Health Services. Remember, in Alberta, we have one health authority for the whole province, which actually means it's one of the largest buyers of health supplies in the world. And so back in December, when they started hearing rumors of a new virus, they really doubled down and massively bought PPE, personal protective equipment, so, to the point where we were able to share that with other provinces. We also, our public health folks, really believed in testing quickly, early, in large numbers. So that has all been helpful. But remember, we don't have the magic bullet here. We've got the third largest number of cases in Canada. We've got more cases than our larger province next door in British Columbia. And we are the site of the largest outbreak in North America, which is the outbreak at the Cargill meatpacking plant. It's not technically in Calgary, but many of the workers live in Calgary. And so we're all in this together, and we're all learning together what to do. But I think the idea of being cautious, of opening the faucet carefully, of relying on testing, relying on contact tracing, not relying necessarily on herd immunity, these are good things to do. And I'm really pleased that the government of Alberta, along with the government of Canada and different provincial governments of every political stripe, have actually been very evidence-based and very based on data in making their decisions. And so while yesterday was a big disappointment for a lot of people in Calgary, I've been calling for weeks to have an evidence-based decision with a clear target. If we meet the target, we do it. If we don't meet the target, we don't. And I'm really pleased that the Alberta government went ahead with that advice.
So evidence-based will get you there, but meanwhile, we see things like the Stampede canceled in Ontario, things like the National Exhibition. These are massive drains on the revenue, the income to your city that you have become accustomed to. Local businesses have lost a bundle here. What can you do to help?
100%. Let's be clear. The city of Calgary is going to be hit, has been hit, and will continue to be hit, probably harder than harder than any city in the Western world. We're dealing with a quadruple whammy here in Calgary. Number one is, of course, the public health crisis, and that's our number one issue. Number two is the global recession and what that means, particularly to street front retail and to businesses that require customer contact. Number three is the crazy, insane price war that you've talked so much about on oil between Russia and Saudi Arabia. And number four is, don't forget, as we just mentioned, here in Calgary, we've got a giant tourism economy that has essentially gone to zero. So people are hurt very badly. And the city's done a whole bunch of things within our very limited scope of authority to make it easier for people, waiving business fees, permits and licenses. We made about a $100 million package to assist businesses in the city. My favorite example is when the restaurants do open 9 days from now, they will be opened at half capacity. So we've basically gotten rid of all the red tape to create a patio, a temporary patio, even on the street outside of your business, so that you can have more people and you can still make money when you're operating at half capacity. We've also had special programs for taxi drivers and other businesses like that. So we've done what we can, but ultimately we need the provincial and federal governments to act. And we've advocated a lot for things like commercial rent relief, which I'm very pleased that the federal government put in, for liquidity for larger firms, which was announced just this last week, as well as specialized assistance for smaller energy firms that was announced a few weeks ago. So we're not done. There's a lot left to be done. But this is one of those rare times where you'll see a city mayor saying, the work that's been done to support business so far by the other orders of government has actually been pretty good.
Well, that's a good note to leave it on. And we do appreciate your insights and your time. Naheed Nenshi is the mayor of the city of Calgary. Thanks for that.